we are seeing in that jump episode is symptomatic of the almost near collapse of the educational system in the country, and the overloaded, the fact that the system, the infrastructure is overloaded. That is what we are seeing there. And I think a lot of factors are responsible for what has happened. Number one, we equally see the issue of how unsafe it is, for our kids to go to schools these days. Sometimes it was 5 or 7 years
From
ago,
sunrise
about
to
that there was this
midnight
issue of a safe
One
school,
station keeps
that was
locked
being championed by BFID,
matter
and
where you are.
that was even at the
Non-stop
level of the
vibe.
primary, secondary. Now we're having at the posts, secondary situation where you have to schedule schools that are far, far, far away from where
That's part of it.
that's part of the problem. I have been reading. I read up a lot on that episode, and JAMB has tried to exculpate itself from the blame, saying that from what I gather, that it's usually the centers that were most of these things are outsourced at some level to some centers.
Yes.
So they are the one who fixed those things. That it is not directly from JAMB. But you see, my argument is, since JAMB is the regulatory body, it should be on board. It should have seen all those things and walked ahead of it. And for me, I think that aside from what Peter Obi mentioned, the need for us to make the system very safe for our kids, I think it goes to what I have been critiquing about JAMB for quite a while. That rather than JAMB build infrastructure that allows educational or exam integrity, and proper conduct, it is more about generating money. You understand? Seen to be, transparent. He's more concerned about the politics and optics of it rather than the integrity of that exam body itself. By now we should be seeing some kind of elevation in the JAMB system, the placement, the placement exam system in the country. Not just about generating huge amount of money and making donations to universities, or coming once in a while to make very profound and controversial statements. No, it should go beyond that.
I want to ask, just off the back of what you just said, how does money generation and placing an exam for 6:30 correlate?
one of the things for which Isha Akoloyede is commended for is the kind of money he generates into federal coffers. Yeah. But the thing is that sometimes, as intelligent as Nigerians are, we can easily be titillated by things like that, which are not really the issues. You understand? We are talking of evolving a fantastic, that is a thorough, integrity-based exam system that can stand the test of time. When you compare it with a lot of exam placement bodies across the world, is it up to par with international standard? Those are the kind of measures we should be using to measure, not its ability to generate humongous amount of money into federal coffers. It shouldn't be.
I mean, Peter Obi mentioned examples like Indonesia.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. He talked about he spoke about the number of students that get into university that is still low. That we are talking of is a situation where you have over 200, is it about 200,000 Nigerians or thereabout, for one university or thereabout. So it's still too low. That is the number of students that get into university for the kind of population we have is way too low. That was why he made mention of, Indonesia. If you notice, Peter Obi has always used this Asian tigers, as a benchmark for marking where we are as a country. And you see, that thing is deliberate because you see, at some point, in the 70s, we used to be at the same level, if not better than most of these countries we are talking about. But because they have been able to invest in education, that was why it leapfrogged their economy. So he has always advocated that, look, if you want to build your economy, you must invest heavily on education. And that is what we are talking about. It shouldn't be the ability of JAMB being able to milk hapless parents, of money, for forms and the rest of them that makes it, so super performing. No, it should be in the integrity, the system, the seamless way it conducts its exam without rancor, without controversy every year. That should be the marker of success.
So earlier this year, I think there was a conversation around the age limit, to entering university and, writing jam and all of these things. And then there was a bit of a discuss about that. And then it reverted to a stable age of 16. That was like
exactly.
the age and everything. So now that that's the age limit, 15, 16, 17 are the I would say the larger percent of teenagers that go for this exams. So now that just means that because of the distance and because of the timing, the parents have to go as well, follow them there and everything. What measures are always put in place at this exam centers for them to be safe? Because there's a lot of insecurity in Nigeria right now. That's what everybody's talking about. There's a lot of insecurity, and there's been situations right now, there's even going on right now that where there have been children who have literally gone missing.
In Lagos.
Exactly. So what security measures are in place at the CBT centers, and what do these centers have to bring to JAM for them to become accredited, for them to be able to conduct these exams for these children?
We might not be able to go into the nitty-gritty of it all, but you see, let me just make another observation. You see, this entire convolution, the parents too have their fault in it. There has been this argument about young people getting to write jam and the rest of them, and the merit of it. And there has been a lot of strong arguments that most of the kids that get into university are very mature. It's not just about being brilliant; it's about being mature cognitively too before you can write exam. Let me also say too that jam is not entirely to blame. In this matter, of course, we have the case of, why it's become a controversy is because it's an emotive issue, because we are talking of real minors having to be taken far away from their home. So, of course, the emotional issue is what is all over the places. But if we look at it really, statutorily, when are you supposed to write jam? You understand? Statutorily, when are you supposed to write jam? And let me tell you something. You see, in developed economies, when you are that age, it is always advised that kids go on travels, see the world before they come back. I think it's, in America, I think it's around 16, 17 or thereabout. You just travel around, get to, but of course you cannot do that here in Nigeria because of the safety issues and things like that. So, if things were okay, one could equally argue that might just be about one of those ways of trying to get your kids to get educated, let them travel to far distance, go and write exam there and come back home. But things are not just safe. I'm just trying to look at this from various angles, that we can look at the issues. You understand? But like you rightly said, I think that by now we should have gone beyond having to face these glitches every now and then, because this thing has been with JAM since forever. You understand? Especially with the outsourcing of exam centers to private people to So I think in the long run, JAM needs to do more than necessary. Especially in the area of if it has to outsource really, if it has to outsource that function of exam centers to private people, it's how do you look? It's vetting must be very, very thorough to see that they have the infrastructure to really do that. Then when they do their posting, I believe that they should see, they should be able to, determine, the placement of these kids in wherever schools they are going to do the exams. You understand? You can imagine a situation where somebody in the heart of Ilorin right here registers for an exam. You ask him to go and do exam in Malete, Kwasu.
For 6:30.
Yeah, from 6:30 in the morning. And that axis is notorious for this kidnap and all the rest of them. So then you even have instances like we have in Lagos where somebody lives in where Obawole, in somewhere around Ogun State, and you ask him to go to Iwekuru to go and write exam. Just post. I mean, you talk of the traffic in Lagos. You talk of the unsafe environment. You're now asking, is he still sometimes even 15 years old to go and do exam, travel on his own to go and do that? I mean, who does that? No responsible system should allow that to happen.
All right, you were talking about infrastructure and outsourcing some of these exams out to private individuals. Again, there's a situation in Ibadan where some of the students were disenfranchised, were not able to write, and then it led to destruction of chairs. It was quite chaotic. What do JAM really need to do in terms of monitoring and seeing that there's a standardization for some of these outsourced CBT centers?
I think JAM has not done enough in the areas of thoroughly vetting these systems. I think that like every human institution, the human factor will come in. This is my friend's friends. This is my colleague and things like that. I'm not saying that is, but if you look at it thoroughly, you see that is exactly what has happened. People just come on recommendation. Powers that be recommend. A powerful person recommends somebody that, look, this person wants to start a JAM center. Please factor him in. You understand? Without, the moment it comes from the, from above, there is little or no vetting done, so that you don't lose your job. So I think it's basically human factor that has led to all that. But you see, that is what we keep on saying. Kudos must be given to Ishaq Oloyede for the kind of reforms he has done. But you see, what is the use of a reform if we can't follow through thoroughly? Because the placement exam is a very sensitive thing, because we are talking of people that you are going to place into university that will be leaders of tomorrow. So if the system is warped, all manners of humans that shouldn't even be in the university find their way into the university system. So that is why, with all this hue and cries, I expect to be a thorough overhaul. If possible, take over some of these centers if they have the wherewithal. I think JAM has the wherewithal, because with all this talk about them donating money to university, I learned they gave to University of Ilorin 500 million. That kind of money, if you can use that to build independent centers across the country, you know what that way. So that goes to what I said earlier, that it should leave the politics of optics alone and focus on the job of running a very professional exam body.
All right, to join the conversation, give us a call on 0807 777 9927, or you can also leave us your comment via WhatsApp. Greg says, honestly, the idea of 6:30 exam is very inconsiderate. It means the child whose exam is far needs to be out by 5 a.m. It goes a long way to show that our decision makers are not attuned to the social, economic, and security situations in our society. My daughter went for the exam this morning, and it's worrisome. Greg from Tanker.
We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Sister Benny.
Good morning to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Mr. Dick is calling from South.
Yeah, good morning.
Please go ahead.
If I don't take my calling today to Mr. Nicholas on his birthday.
Good morning.
I wish so many happy returns.
Thank you very much.
He needs the fruit of his hand.
Thank you.
The Lord will bless his way.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Even we exert. Wherever he takes his foot, all he as the land of Goshen for him. Everything he made his hands on shall be prospered in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Let's come to the conversation that we have this morning. 0807 777 9927. The trending national headlines. Maybe the ones catching your attention, you want to bring them on the program, or please feel free. But please note that it must be from credible sources and verifiable sources as well too.
All right, let's move to another conversation, and this one has to do with the defections. Gate of defections we're talking about since last week, and we have the presidency, making comments about it as well, and. The special advisor to President Bola Tinubu, Bayo Naniga, says that those migrating to the APC believe in Tinubu's reforms and which are aimed at securing a better future for Nigerians, while also rejecting accusations that the country is sliding into a one-party state. Remember, we mentioned that last week as well, and blaming the opposition party's internal crisis on their poor organization, indiscipline, and incompetence, and that the politicians who are defecting, are acting out of their own free will. And in the same breath, we have the NHIS boss, Usman Yusuf, accusing the government also of using the EFCC to silence critics, and that's why using the EFCC to intimidate the centers, and that's why people are defecting.
Well, I think sometime last week, was it over the weekend, there was this open letter that was signed by about 19 individuals. I'm talking of real activists under the military. And one of them happens to be OSA director, who was the editor-in-chief of Insider Weekly, and he used to be with TEL. And under Abacha, he was arrested in Kano and detained, for his journalistic rules, that is activist journalism in promotion of democracy, And you have Richard Akinola involved in Abdul. There's one Abdul. A lot of people, I can't remember their name. These were people that were in the trenches, and in the trenches during the military era to bring about this democracy. And, the irony of the thing is that this used to be the erstwhile, colleagues of the current president in power, President Tinubu. And you see, that open letter they wrote was to warn that the country is really sliding, democratically, speaking, and that they are not going to stand by and watch a situation where Nigeria slides into a single party system. They are in the best position, in my opinion, to really gauge whether we are really practicing democracy, whether there is danger to our democracy. And they came out so simply to say that what is happening is no longer democracy. That a functional democracy is about multi-party system. You understand? And, when you now look at the allegation of this former NHIS, executive secretary, Dr. Yusuf.
Yeah, Dr. Yusuf.
I listened to his interview on Arise TV, and it was pathetic, really. It was a kind of, it was saddening that could happen to any individual in this country. That what he described aptly. Now, of course, some might argue that is his opinion, that is skewed in his, but what does the optics say? What we are seeing, we have more than enough instances to justify the claim that we are pushing towards a one-party system, that people are being coerced.
Right. Sorry to bother you. Let's get this call.
Yeah.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Richard from Garkombe.
Richard from Garkombe, can you speak up a little bit, Richard, so Nigerians can have your conversation?
All right. Please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
I want to talk about the jam.
Okay. Please do well to try to connect back, Richard from Garkombe. Please go ahead, Mr. Nicholas.
So, when you look at, the pattern of arrests, it's by high-profile arrests that are being made. Look at the pattern. Who are those targeted really? We are talking of principally people from the opposition parties. And before you know what's happening, you have them change over to the ruling party. And you hear nothing more, about their cases. You understand? You see, if you accuse somebody of stealing, you understand? If somebody is accused of stealing, traditionally speaking, if somebody is accused of stealing, you understand? And the next day, you see the king welcoming that person, what kind of message does it send to you as a person? That is why, what is really happening and all this allegation is quite worrisome. And, you have cases of, look at the case of Okowa, a former vice presidential candidate of a leading opposition party, defecting along with the governor, whom he midwifed into office. So you have that. That is Delta State. You have a lot of governors. You have the case of Akwa Ibom too. Getting ready to move on. You have a lot of stories of governors willing from PDP moving on to APC. You understand? So all those stories, and what you hear from very, very Bugaji. Bugaji recently said that that there is huge financial inducement and intimidation to get people to come to APC. You understand? So that on the one hand, where you look at it, you find justification in that allegation. Or of course, by your non-Nugas.
Nicholas, please hold on.
Okay.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. What's your name? Could you say that again, please?
Femi from Zongo.
Femi from Zongo. Please go ahead.
I don't think you should be surprised about this stuff. You all had it. Chairman said it openly. He said, "They come and your sins shall be forgiven." So why are we surprised?
Okay.
Well, I actually was a friend from Zongo. That was what I was actually building towards, and he's quite right, A former national chairman, Adams Oshomole, who is currently a senator and in the National Assembly, did say something like that. Just come over to APC and your sins shall be forgiven. He said it openly. So you see, there is this often expression, this trite expression I use, that is isomorphic mimicry. The tendency to have institutions that should perform a function, but actually they are just there for decoration. They are not doing what they are supposed to. So we have all the sameness of what a democratic country should have. All those things that institutions, as it were, that should be there, but they are not really democratic in terms of their function. When you define their function, you have multi-party system, but they are not acting as opposition. Rather, they are acting as, they are even spokesman for the president, even more than the party, the ruling party themselves. You see, the opposition parties are there to provide alternative views, for people, and you don't see that happening. In fact, rather, you find individuals or group or movements doing it more. You have the Showores Revolution. You have the Obedient Movement. You have individuals. Then, of course, you have disgruntled members of APC playing the opposition. You don't even see the parties playing the kind of roles they are supposed to play. What do you hear from their officers when they talk? Is either they are praising the president for one thing or the other, not really playing opposition party. They are not offering an alternate platform for people who want to seek power. So that is, elementary government that I did in the secondary school. Those were the things I was taught. And when you look at this EFF in South Africa, Malema, Julius Malema. Mm-hmm. Look at what that man is doing. He has a global reckoning. And even though you consider his party as a minority party, he has very few seats at the is it Congress, is the assembly, the lawmaking body. But that man's voice is heard everywhere. Mm-hmm. He's providing alternative to ANC in South Africa.
All right, let's get this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah. My name is Joshua, calling from Tanke.
Could you say that again, please?
Joshua calling from Tanke.
Joshua calling from Tanke. Please go ahead, Josh.
All right. First of all, happy birthday to Mr. Nicholas. You've been doing a very wonderful job, and we all love you.
Thank you so much.
I want to talk about Mr. Nicholas mentioned. He made a point which I think should be pressed on further. Why can't JAMB build independent centers that will be directly under their control? 500 million to Unilori for what? Most of these universities are making money already on their own. It's a high time JAMB. Mr. Isha Oloyede is someone we all know his person, and I feel like if he actually had the absolute power to do what he wants, he would have made quite a number of more changes, definite changes. But I want to believe that certain powers that be also have influences, which even though he's fighting against, but he's also trying not to overstep his boundaries. Because this building of independent centers will help to solve these issues a whole lot. Go to some of these centers thereabouts, and you discover that they don't even have up to 200 computers. You have about 1,000 more students that have been posted to make exams in that center. What are we doing in this country? And what are the rest of Africa? Now, educational system is like this. So that's number one. Number two, talking about political parties. For me, I think one of the things that we'll do, let's stop deceiving ourselves. These 50, 30, whatever number of political parties you have, most of them are just there. For me, let us have 10 recognized political parties that we know that, okay, these are the parties that we have functioning in this country. Because a whole lot of them are just there, and if you find out, most of them are just working for the power, for those that are actually in power right now. They are not doing much. Imagine the whole national election, the parties having like maybe 100 and something votes, 1,000 votes. What's the essence?
All right, Joshua. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joshua.
Thank you, Joshua.
Yeah, he made very, very strong point. The issue of that donations to universities, and all those things. I think it was unnecessary. Because already we are talking of universities coming, having fundings from several quarters, grants, federal government allocation, even TED fund. So JAM should have used use that money more judiciously instead of making all these needless, frivolous donations all over the places when the infrastructure is very weak. And of course, the thing is that on the area of
Let
that
me ask
political
you a
party
question. What holds you back when you wake up each morning? Is it the uncertainty of how the day will unfold? And as the day goes on, what makes your heart race? Is it the quiet fear that maybe you're not doing enough? And when it's evening, is it the longing for just a little more time? Whatever it is, remember, challenges don't define you, but how you rise to meet them. Staying connected to your dreams, that's how you break free from limits. Get unlimited data plus up to 6-hour battery backup.
And we are flowing past midnight. You ready to chill?
All right, it's exactly 8:30, and this is how much we can, take on the headline news analysis this morning. Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you
for
so much.
your time, and thank you for the calls as well. To Joshua, thank you from Tanki, and Greg, thank you so very much for your message. My name is Dayo Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us today. Take it up again tomorrow on The Conversations. Good morning.
Here to light up the city, 92.7, go with the flow. Feel your day with us.
We've never achieved anything from the subsidy remover. Instead, everything is going higher, fuel up, food stuff is striking up.
Look at us now, there is nothing, we are starving.
As you can see, there is no light, and it makes us to lose customer.
The government really needs to redefine its security architecture.
Every day, Nigerians get up to complain of one thing or the other about the affairs of the country. From poor electricity to insecurity, healthcare, education, and the economy. This is not to say some level of progress is not being recorded, but how much of the impact is felt by the people? Do you have an opinion or comments to share about the current situation in Nigeria? Your Go With The Flow station, Flow FM 92.7, has provided a platform for you to have your say every Friday from 10 to 10:30